Well, hi everybody. Welcome to a late Joe and Joe weather show. Joe hasn't jumped on board yet. So while we're waiting, we can tell you that the Joe and Joe weather show is brought to you by Omni True Value Hardware, Long Island's largest rock salt source with the best prices in town and everything you need to get you through winter weather and also everything you need come springtime because they've got mulch and they've got topsoil and they've got everything to make your yard look great. In the meantime, if you still need stuff to clear out any kind of winter weather, and we may get some winter weather early next week, OmniTrueValue.com is the place to go. 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon. 631-756-1125 is the telephone number, and the website is OmniTrueValue.com. So let's see if Rayo is anywhere within sight. No, not yet. I don't know. Did he forget? Oh, good Lord. Uh, okay. So we're on late tonight because today is my birthday, and I spent the day with my grandsons. And I just got back a little while ago. Yes, 26 would be nice, but it's 62. New York Jets. Jets fan 1991 Cody, thanks for hitting super chat. By the way, most appreciated. It'll get me. I got my cigar here, so it's hard to see with this camera. It look doesn't come out right, but as long as I come out right. All right, let's see. Is he there yet? Because if he's not there, here he is. Okay, so he's coming on. Stand by, everybody. He should be in the door. He's in the door. The audio is connected. Hold on. Just a moment. Hang on a second.
Are you there?
I'm here. Let me see if
Can you
your audio is a little weird. Hang on, Joe. Okay, hang on. I got to add a new window here. Just a second. Tired, tired, tired. Oh, there you go. Boy, that was weird. You popped up. Yay! Okay,
Hey,
that's one less thing I have to do then. Okay,
are we
so
on the air?
we are on the air. Yes, indeed. We've already had two super chat hits. Actually, a second one has just arrived. What is that? Oh, I can't see it, Joe. I don't know what that is. I can't hear it either.
Oh, wait a minute. Hang on.
Oh, oh good Lord. Your audio is low, but for whatever that was.
There you go.
Thank you.
Happy birthday, Joe Giappi.
Thank you. 62 years young today. Okay,
Yes, indeed.
David Fuller also hit super chat tonight. Thank you, David, very much. And he also sent me the EPO, which was in a good position. It's the East Pacific Oscillation is negative going forward. Let's see if I can pull it up a bit later on. But spent the day with the grandkids, so I'm a little bit wiped out here. Another super chat hit by Bill Fisher. Thank you, Bill. Really appreciate it. By the way, welcome to Patreon. Thank you for joining up on my subscription platform as well. So I got back about a little less than an hour ago, so I did get to look at the guidance and the models going forward. I don't know. I've got some mixed feelings about this thing for next week. There's a certain, I guess the way I would describe it is that there's a certain disjointness to it. I'm not sure. There's something about it that doesn't seem quite right. I can't seem to put my finger on it. On the other hand, there's some decent puzzle pieces there, and I don't want to necessarily I'm not discounting it. I'm just, and I don't even want to use the word skeptical right now. I'm just, I don't know. I'm just having some problems with it.
Well, Joe, the European has been the one model that has been kind of delaying this. I've seen the GFS trying to push this thing in as early as late Sunday,
Right.
and meanwhile the European has been pushing this back to late Monday. And
Well,
I got
and
to tell you
that's,
that
yeah, I'm sorry.
looking at the European ensemble, I almost get the impression that if this thing were just a tad further south and east, that this thing might actually miss us altogether. It seems like it's trying to wind up. It seems like it's passing underneath us to our south. That's according to the European now
Hmm.
by later Monday, and then all of a sudden it kind of like a Rosenblum's rule. It kind of like eddies back a little bit back toward the
Right.
west and tries to get us for Monday night into Tuesday with some kind of snowfall. So
Well, the night run was the night run of the European last night was a complete miss to the south. So it just kind of backed, sort of backed itself northward today. There's still a lot. There's still a lot here um, that we've got to sort through because obviously we're not going to put our finger on it now as in terms of it being Wednesday. Uh, but there's still a lot of things to sort through over the next couple of days to see how this whole thing is going to play out. In my never to be humble opinion.
and then right after, I mean, like it's interesting. We get to tomorrow night and Friday, and we have by far and away the coldest weather that we have seen so far this season. Which, if you think about it, that's not really saying all that much because we've had the month of January has been one of the warmest Januaries, something like what 4 or 5 degrees above normal.
Right.
Then we get very cold. Then we have to wait for this thing coming our way for early next week, and then it turns cold again, not as cold as what we'll see for tomorrow night and Friday. And then we get another system that's coming our way for around the 5th and 6th of February. And before that arrives, we warm up big time
Right. Well,
late next week.
doesn't it often happen whenever we get a snowfall of size that we wind up warming up and raining a few days later?
Right.
I put up the map of low temperatures for Friday morning, and yeah, it's cold, and it's not just that too. You've got wind issues here to deal with as well. Temperatures teens are going to extend as far south as Northern Virginia, and you've got single digits in the northwest suburbs of New York and the northeast suburbs of New York as well. And you start to go upstate, and you start to get into some below zero numbers up north of Albany. Albany itself forecast to get to -3, and then you've got a -14, -11 way up in northern New York State, up near Plattsburgh. So we've got a very cold air mass for sure. And then on Saturday morning, the lows Saturday morning are probably going to be maybe a degree or two colder. And in fact, the teens make it all the way down into southern Virginia and 20s all the way down into South Carolina and even into northern Georgia. So where I am, I'm still here. In fact, they have a rain coming in between now and 1 or 2 a.m. and they mentioned that it could mix with or change over to snow in the higher elevations here. I'm up at 2,500 feet, so uh, who
Can't get much
knows?
higher than that.
There's some tops here that go up at least up to 3,000 and 4,000. So uh, there are spots here that are higher than me, but yeah, it's if I maybe I'll see some snow showers overnight, but I don't know if I'm going to stay up for it because I'm exhausted. By the way, the high temperatures are going to be cold also. Well, we're not going to. You mentioned yesterday about maybe struggling out of the low 20s, and I think that's going to be the case. In fact, I'm looking at some of the numbers just to the north of the coast, and they barely get back to 20 on Friday. And Saturday is going to be cold also in the 20s again. You start to get to some lower 30s when you get to southern New Jersey and points south. And Sunday, Temperatures. This is going to depend on clouds coming in and a few other factors, but at least from the digital forecast, Joe, 20s for you on Sunday, and low 30s just about everywhere else. So certainly there's going to be plenty of cold air around going into this storm system, I think. But again, still a lot to sort through with respect to what may or may not happen.
And looks like the folks who are going to be getting a significant snowfall over the next couple of days will be the folks who live to your north and east and to my south or to our south from here in the tri-state area. Um, this storm looks like it's going to take a swipe and possibly bring some accumulating snow to places that don't normally see a lot of accumulating snow.
You're talking. You're talking about
Most notably,
You're talking about the system
the
passing
one
by
from
our south,
right.
or
No,
my
from my
north.
south to your
My
north.
north, yes.
Yeah.
Winter storm warnings are up for the mountains of North Carolina and also for a few areas on the Tennessee side. And also in parts of Southwest Virginia, you have winter weather advisories all the way out to about the Outer Banks in North Carolina. Also in most of central and eastern Kentucky and southern West Virginia. The storm in the west, which is going to be what we're looking at for early next week, still going on. Winter storm warnings up the Sierra Nevadas with two counties have blizzard warnings up, winter weather advisories up for other counties in, I'm sure, sorry, Nevada. Also, the winter storm warnings extend up to Northern California with advisories along the coast. You've got flash flood watches up for counties west of San Francisco, east of San Francisco, and a number of flood advisories up already out there. I'm gonna bring up the radar so we could take a look at what's going on precip wise down in the southern mid Atlantic states. And actually, not too shabby an area showing up on the radar in North Carolina, eastern Tennessee, southern Virginia, back up into eastern Kentucky, northeastern Kentucky, and also even into southern Ohio. There's actually some echoes that extend up right along the Pennsylvania Maryland border, believe it or not. But all of this is going to be sliding out to the south. By the way, did you get any snow last night into this morning? Because a lot of folks woke up to either a whitening of the ground or even a coating to an inch or so from some overnight stuff that fell.
I can't really tell you because we didn't even bother. We picked up maybe about, oh, I'd say a quarter an inch, maybe a third of an inch of snow yesterday during the day, and then it got dark last night. I noticed that it started snowing again last night, but if we did get anything, it might have been maybe an additional, quarter of an inch or like on top. I can't really tell how much snow fell on top of what we received yesterday, but I spent the better part of my morning, and so did Renata, shoveling it or scraping it all away. Uh, we didn't get, let's put it this way, we didn't get enough snow to utilize the snow blower.
Oh, okay. Well,
It was it was a relatively light snowfall. And by the way, Joe,
yes.
by the way, I you remember somebody on the chat board said that Channel 7 AccuWeather had gone for 3 to 6 inches up here where I live, up in Putnam County.
Right. I thought we
And
resolved
I
that
said,
that was not true.
and I thought I resolved that too, except that I was looking back and I saw on Lee Goldberg, who is the chief meteorologist on Channel 7, he had a snow map that he was displaying at about 4 o'clock yesterday afternoon. And lo and behold, the snow map had Putnam County, my area, getting 3 to 6 inches of snow. So no, it was
Oh,
not a fallacy. At least at one time yesterday or the day before yesterday, they were going for as much as a half a foot of snow up here. I'm still trying to figure out why that is and
why?
why anybody would do something like that.
There was nothing on. There was nothing to. I mean, in my opinion, there was certainly nothing to justify amounts that high. But that's why it's called forecasting. And
And another thing, AccuWeather, when I listen to them sometimes on 1010 winds, they're always using Interstate 287 as their line for delineating significant or heavy snowfall. That's true in some cases, but not in all cases. I've had cases over the last year, for example, where I said, well, the really heavy stuff is going to be north of the I-84 corridor.
Right.
And then I listen on to AccuWeather, and AccuWeather is saying, now, if you're going north of 287, I said, why? Why is that? It's not 287. That's not where the heavy snows are going to be. It's going to be further north. But they just arbitrarily just say or assume that
287.
287 is the line for, yeah,
This
it's not the
from
case.
280. For those you who don't know, 287 runs east-west across southern Westchester County, and 84 runs north of in northern Westchester on the Westchester Putnam line. That's 30 miles. That's a 30
Actually,
mile drive on 684.
actually, no, not 684, just 84.
No. But
The
driving
I,
up when you drive up 684
right,
from
right, that's right.
287 to get to 84, it's a little over 30 miles. And in
Absolutely.
the winter, that's a huge difference. Those
That's
30
true.
miles make a big difference in a lot of cases. In snow to rain cases, up in the lower Hudson Valley, yeah. So that makes a huge difference when you make 287 your line in the sand, and when the line in the sand really should be up at Route 84.
84 runs across just to the south of the northernmost part of Orange County, then on down through Dutchess County. And then there's one little part of Putnam County, an extreme northeastern Putnam, where 84 will cut across, and then you'll continue that on into Connecticut over toward Danbury. A lot
Right.
of people will get on 84 to get to the Danbury Mall, uh, but uh, but that's where 84 is, and you're right. It's a good 30-mile difference between 287 and 84. And like I said, it seems to me that AccuWeather just arbitrarily just takes 287, says that's the line, that's where you go north to get all the heavy snow. But that is not the case, because sometimes the really heavy stuff is north of 84, and that's a good 30 miles further to the north.
Yep.
And I don't know, maybe somebody when they did that 3 to 6 yesterday or the day before for Putnam County was thinking like, oh, that's north of 287. We'll give them the 3 to 6. The mind boggles sometimes. You really have to know, or sometimes you have to live here to know
To not to
the,
understand it.
the vagaries of forecasting.
By the way, I got the radar up in California because there is a ton of rain that has moved in south of San Francisco, near San Jose, down to Fresno and up to Sacramento. And of course, it's snow in the higher elevations. And the radar echoes extend up into Nevada, right all around Carson City, just absolutely solid there. That's all snow. And you've got more rain up in coastal northern California with snows going on inland. So this energy that's coming in, that's in the west, is pretty potent. I'm going to bring up, I'm going to update this. Let's see, this is from this morning. So for WPC with regards to the next weather event. So I got it preset here on the last day. So let me fix the map up here, and then we'll go backwards. So on Monday, which is Sunday to Monday, WPC now has a 50 to 70% chance of at let's say 2 to 3 inches of snow, northern and northwestern Virginia, northeastern West Virginia, Maryland, up to east of I-95, southern and central Pennsylvania, covering a large part of southern and central Pennsylvania to the Jersey state line, and even kind of nosing into New Jersey. And the 30 to 50% runs up to just east of New York City to southwestern Connecticut and up into the Hudson Valley. This is Sunday into Monday. And then Monday into Tuesday, the map should be coming up shortly. It shifts further, obviously it shifts northward, but you got a fairly large area of 30 to 50% of at least 2 to 3, and 50 to 70% northern New Jersey, northeastern PA, the just north of New York City into Connecticut, and also an area in east central Mass and southern New Hampshire, with 30 to 50 almost to Boston, and 10 to 30 right along the immediate coast. So WPC, at least, they're seeing this as something with potential here. And as far as the overnight is concerned, I'll give this a refresh to see what they're doing. This is might be a little off, if only because of the fact that some of that preset may have already fallen. But they also, WPC, with the probability of at least 2, covering a fairly large portion there of 50% or higher, southwestern Virginia, southern Virginia, northern North Carolina, almost to the coastline, with a 30 to 50% chance. So, areas in eastern North Carolina don't see snow too often, so folks from there may get a little bit of a thrill with this weather system going by, and of course this, Joe, the mechanism for bringing down the cold, which we've been talking about, that is all on schedule. There's nothing that's going to prevent that cold to come down from northeastern Canada as opposed to northwestern Canada.
And that southwestern part of in the high elevations of southwestern Virginia, I would not be totally surprised if in those higher elevation areas that they end up with maybe a foot of snow out of this.
When I
Um,
drove
it
down,
looks like
when I drove down to Georgia, I drove down 81, and it was they had just had one of those systems that went by to the south back earlier in the month, and they uh, now the hot 81 doesn't go. 81 is well, some areas you're pretty high, and then sometimes you go down in the valley into a valley, and it was kind of interesting to see when you would climb up. There was every bit of 3 to 4 inches as you climb, and you're near a peak. And then when you went down to a valley, there was barely a coating in most places there. So it does vary quite a bit.
yeah, and I think I mentioned that one time Renata and I, when we were doing radio, syndicated radio weathercasts back in the 70s and 80s, we used to do a gospel station, WGTH, down there in southwestern Virginia, and it was a very tricky place to forecast because of the high terrain. And all I could say is that if I were still doing that station now, I'd be pulling the whistle string and saying, hey, the highest terrain areas, 6, maybe 12 inches. It's going to be a pretty good snow. You're right, Joe, about eastern North Carolina. The Outer Banks and Cape Hatteras, they don't see the white stuff too often, but this may be one of those occasions when they will be seeing that.
Yep. And looking at the satellite tonight, you can see the disturbance that's moving through the east. That's going to become a major storm once it goes offshore. The west moisture, a solid subtropical jet there that's coming up from the Pacific and moving into Southern California and well inland. That moisture is really shooting up there. So that's the short wave that's going to be moving eastward and will be our forecast headache going forward. The WPC folks also on their 7-day precip map. So this actually pretty much just covers the system for early next week for the northern mid-Atlantic and on up into southern and coastal New England. So they've got us between, say, 3/4 of an inch to an inch and a quarter of liquid being forecast there, with a half to 3/4 as you go a little bit further to the northwest. If you look at the precip, the way it's lined up, Joe, it lines up the way a coastal event would line up, where all the heavy precip is more to the south and east. So when you have some of these snowstorms that in or even moderate events, the precip shield shows up, and then as you go further north and west, the amounts do cut back. So they have a quarter to a half well inland, and then go north of Albany, and they just barely have a tenth to a quarter. Meanwhile, by the way, in the west, just getting clobbered for the next 7 days, with some areas getting 5 to maybe as much as 10 inches of liquid precip. And that's why when we saw the snowfall forecast map the other day with those triple digit amounts, um, what was the one we saw yesterday? Was what, 9.5 feet, something like that? I mean,
113
yeah,
inches.
some crazy, some just absolutely some crazy number. All right, so you know what? Let's jump to the let's get the models going here, and not, I don't know. There's a few things that I want to point out to watch for. First off, the surface. Here's our low for tonight that's moving out. You can see how south and suppressed it is. When you get a low that goes from western North Carolina and then reforms southeast of Hatteras and then just kind of shoots out to the east, it's no wonder that we're not getting anything. And of course, you see the cold high builds in, the cold air coming into the eastern part of the United States. There's actually an upper low that's dropping down into northern New England that is pulling all this cold air southward. It doesn't. The cold air penetrates south, but the real true cold air stays from North Carolina northward. It doesn't go all the way down. Cool air gets down to Florida, but the cold air is confined mainly to the Mid Atlantic and of course the Northeast. And then, of course, your high goes near James Bay. Here again, as yesterday, the GFS with a low east of St. Louis, central Indiana, moves into southeast Ohio. The primary dies out. The secondary develops. And even the GFS does what you described earlier with the European. It sort of arcs the low back. It moves it out northeast and then pulls it back northwestward. That's because of the upper feature, Joe, trying to cut off. And that's going to be one of the things to watch here. The other thing I would point out that's equally important, and I talked about this morning on my Weather in 10. You've got a ridge there up the Rockies, and there's another trough that's approaching the West Coast. So we're going to want to keep an eye on that trough that's coming into the west, because if it comes in a little faster, it could dent that ridge somewhat, which would flatten out the system in the east. On the other hand, if you want to look at it in the other direction, if the trough in the west is a little bit slower, then this ridge could wind up being a little sharper, and that means this feature will wind up being deeper and might cut off a bit more vigorously. Uh, the other thing, the structure of the cutoff bothers me too here in the east on the GFS, because it's elongated in this sort of northeast southwest fashion. I mean, in big snowstorms, you usually get some sort of symmetrical up cutoff low, but it's sort of stretched out here. So I'm having some difficulty with that.
It looks like it's trying to. What's the in some aspects it looks like it's a positive tilted trough
Right.
within a broad full
Negatively
latitude
tilted
trough.
trough. Right.
Negatively, yeah, yeah, yeah. It's kind of strange.
Yeah. Here's your positive tilt like that. But then you've got
Right.
this, there's another upper low that's up here too that you probably want to keep our eyes on, because that could be bothersome. But yeah, the whole scope of this broad trough has a negative tilt to it, and now you see that trough coming into the west. Also, again, those are the things I think that are going to be really important. They're going to ultimately determine what comes out of all of this. And I'll bring the Europeans upper air also, just as a comparison. See, the Europeans even, this is kind of interesting. It's got a closed north-south cutoff sitting, if you want to put a center, it's probably in southern Chesapeake Bay. But then what is this doing? This is that northern feature that's kind of dropping in. So that's going to have some impact here too in terms of the ultimate outcome. So it's a very, very complex setup, and I think there's still going to be a lot of work to do here in terms of what the models are going to do over the next couple of days. So don't there will be more surprises. Let's put it that way, with respect to what may or may not happen.
Yeah, it looks like again, what will ultimately take place, or what ultimately will transpire on Monday and Tuesday? People are, I love how people they just leapfrog right over tomorrow's event and say, all right, we could have had it, but we don't have it, and so let's about it. We'll go to Monday. Let's take a look, see how good Monday looks. Like Monday and Tuesday is going to be all based upon what happens with this system coming our way or not coming our way for tomorrow and for Friday, how that develops, where that ultimately ends up, how strong it winds up. And that will be one of the players to tell us what eventually is going to take shape for Monday and Tuesday of next week.
Right.
And that's why we just can't simply say, we can't put our finger on any one model right now and say, this is definitely going to happen, because it's not definitely going to happen, because we don't know what's going to happen before this system tomorrow and Friday gets out of the way. Don't you love weather?
I know, it's wonderful, isn't it? Hey, the European, by the way, low in St. Louis. The one thing the European has been a little more consistent on is the fact that it really wipes out the primary a whole lot faster and takes it from St. Louis a little bit more east southeast. You can see it here by Monday morning. This is probably why it's holding the precip back, because you've got the surface high in eastern Canada is kind of pressing down south of it. You're going to have cold, dry air nearby, and then of course your low your secondary low is developing there in eastern North Carolina, and the European on the day run today, unlike last night where it took it almost east southeast toward Bermuda, it lifts this one up, and there is the surface low southeast of Atlantic City, and then it looks like it passes very close to 40 and 70, which is what we always refer to as the benchmark, by Wednesday morning. So yeah, Joe, this is good. This would say, at least if the European were correct, we wouldn't see anything here on Sunday. It would be more along the lines of developing, late during the day Monday, or late, or at least from New York City north and east. It wouldn't be till late Monday or Monday evening, and then Tuesday, and then coming to an end sometime Tuesday night or early Wednesday. Really does move slowly though, because of the system cutting off from North Carolina to 40 and 70. It takes 48 hours to get there. So this could still wind up being a long duration event, and I will wonder, given the messy look that we see in the upper air, are we going to have a are we going to have a solid area of precip to deal with, or is it going to be one of these things where you've got blotchy areas of steady snow, and in between there's gaps, and or the snow is very light. Plus, we'll have to also resolve, any sleet or rain issues with this. That'll be another question that we'll have to put on the table. And then, as you said, the next one goes to the lakes. The European has an 85 low in eastern Iowa. I don't know if that's going to be that deep, or look this way. But the bottom line is, the low pulling out um, brings a ridge in between the two, so we'll have a low that'll go up to the lakes, and then who knows what the pattern where the pattern will take us in the longer range.
It's going to be the usual waiting game. And as far as next week is concerned, Monday and Tuesday, um, once again, it's going to be a state of we'll have to wait probably until the weekend before things really start coming or falling, hopefully, into place. Till then, it's just going to be a matter of just seeing how this system tomorrow and Friday develops. I will say about the question for tomorrow is it's going to be a cold day tomorrow, no question about that. But it's going to get very cold tomorrow night and on into Friday. And I'm just wondering, even though the atmosphere presumably is going to be rather dry, whether or not when that really cold air starts moving in, and I'll probably be right about this time tomorrow,
Right. When the upper
passing
low
across the
moves,
region
yeah,
up.
yeah. Well, then maybe there might be maybe there'll be a few snow showers running around with that.
Yeah, I'm wondering if that is a possibility, because I do think that tomorrow, this either at the end of tomorrow or tomorrow evening, all of a sudden we're not going to necessarily, unless you're outside, but we're going to hear it. We're going to hear those winds suddenly rev up a couple of notches and start driving that cold air in. And I haven't, believe it or not, Joe, I haven't even had a chance to look. Are there any kind of did the Weather Service either here or in Albany, did they issue any kind of a wind chill advisory or
No,
something
not
for?
yet, not yet. They'll probably wait to do that. By the way, the NAO, just to point out, the NAO, which is negative, actually with this storm developing, actually spikes this, and you usually see this when you see the spiking up of the NAO from a negative to a positive over a short period of time. So that is the storm that's developing is reflecting this. So you see the spike up right around February 1st, which times perfectly with what we're seeing, and then it kind of straddles the neutral line for the rest of the forecast period. My view on this, by the way, Joe, is since the negative NAO and the blocking that we've had for 2 months really didn't do us any good. I don't think it really harms us very much to see the NAO go back up to the neutral line. Actually, in a lot of ways, it might be a better, might be better for snow chances in the longer term. The AO is deeply negative, and stays that way right through the first uh, 10 days of February. So the AO is still in a state that should favor us getting cold. The PNA, the Pacific North America Index, is negative spiking to positive around February 1st. So this is also indicative that that PNA spike here is coming around the time, right at the time that we're going to have this low in the in the east. So the teleconnections are actually lining up in a good place for for a snow event here in the northern mid-Atlantic and on up into southern New England. And David Fuller had sent me the EPO, so let me see if I can bring this up. And the EPO, hopefully it's a bit. I've been having trouble with pulling up pictures tonight off of Messenger, and you can see I'm still having trouble pulling up pictures off of Messenger. It's on my end. It's not David's fault. It's on my end um, that the pictures aren't coming up. But the bottom line is uh, the EPO is going to be negative here. So we seem to have the right teleconnections. Uh, whether they yield any fruit or not for snow lovers is still a big question mark. From
Reaver 501 is asking on the chat board, Joe Rayo, what are you going for in Central Park as a low? Reaver, I think on Friday morning, I think even the park is going to get down into the teens, maybe 15 or 16. My question about Friday, Joe, is after we bottom out, how much higher will the temperatures go between, let's say, 7 a.m. on Friday morning and 2 o'clock Friday afternoon? Because the 850 temperature, the 850 temperature is projected to be over the tri-state area minus 21.
Yeah,
What can you do with a minus 21 850
no,
even
you're
with
right.
sunshine?
Well, hey, maybe the numbers are still too high. Maybe 20 might be the highest temperatures that you get, and a lot of areas may not wind up north of New York City may not get out of the won't get out of the teens.
Yeah, I've seen this over and over again over my and your career too, where let's say 3 or 4 days ahead of an impending cold wave, the forecast temperatures for let's say New York City are 26, 27, and you look at the maps 4 or 5 days down the road and say, really? You think it's going to get that high? I think it could be a few degrees colder. And now the way it's looking, I'm beginning to wonder. I mean, the Moss temperatures are saying the high in New York on Friday is going to be 23, 24. Really, with a minus 21 850 at starting off the day? You're right. We're going to see it. It's going to be tough to get that temperature much above 20, even in the city. I think on Friday after bottoming out,
Imagine
and it
if
all
we
comes rolling in, and it all comes rolling in at this hour tomorrow night. As I said,
right.
about this time tomorrow night, you're going to feel those winds blowing in. In comes the cold air, and it's not going to last very long. But while it's here, it's going to be every bit of a frigid air mass for our area.
Imagine if we had some snow cover.
Imagine,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, 306, 310 viewers on right now and 111 likes. Thank you very much for those of you who've hit the like button tonight. Really appreciate it greatly. If you like the live stream, hit the like button. And I just want to acknowledge everyone that's hit Super Chat tonight for my birthday. And I really do appreciate it. New York Jets fan 1991 Cody, David Fuller, Bill Fisher. Carl Weitz, Timothy Veltman, thank you so much for hitting super chat. Shraggy Stern hitting super
Barry
chat.
Barry Goldberg.
Barry Goldberg hitting super chat. Very generous of you. Thank you. And William Uber, thank you so much for hitting super chat. And I will be back. Actually, I am driving back. I haven't decided on whether I'm going to leave midday Friday because I don't really like driving at night, but I have to, but I also don't want to leave uh, early in the morning because I have to drive through the mountains and
Oh,
and I'm not big on those mountain roads are they're not tight, but to do them in the daytime I can handle. To do them at night, I don't know that I want to try it. So I'm trying to
I wouldn't.
decide if I leave in the middle of the day Friday. I will get to the other side to the interstate. Once I get on 26, I'm fine. It's getting to 26 that's a chore. And then come up or
I was I
leaving
was
Saturday morning. In which case, then
I
we'll
was 26 once.
yes. Well, exactly. Well, I was 62 is 26 backwards.
Yes.
And oh, Zim is on. Hitting super chat tonight. Thank you so much. We haven't seen you in a while. Nice to see you on board uh, tonight on the chat board. Brandon Doherty also hitting super chat tonight. Most appreciated, Brandon. Thank you so much. There's a lot of it gets me a box of cigars tonight, so that's a good thing. And I'm not out of wine yet, so we're good. Uh, Again, many thanks to everybody. It's definitely most appreciated. The chairman Scott Briller is doing COVID run, so he's busy late this week. So we don't have a Briller Jeopardy.
But what I do have, Joe, courtesy of Rob Friedlewitz, and if you have not seen it, Rob Friedlewitz has an amazing website, New York City Weather Archive, a glance back day by day. I figured for your birthday, I would go to this particular page and check out some of the things that have happened on your birthday. Now, before you entered this world, in
Yes.
1927, the low temperature on this date in 1927 was 1 below 0, a record for this date that still stands. However, the very next day, the high temperature was 44, followed by 7 days in a row with highs reaching into the 40s to the 50s. So we hit bottom on this day, your birthday in 1927, and then we took a rapid rise up in the days that follow. 1974, today's high 66, 28 degrees above average, but 3 degrees shy of the record, came in the midst of an 11-day stretch in which temperatures were 15 degrees above average. That was in 1974. 1976, if I remember correctly, that was a cold year, cold winter. 4 days after a morning low of 1 below 0, on this day in 1976, the temperature at daybreak was 56 degrees.
Hey, don't you
It was
love it?
also a rain-soaked day in 1976 on this date, with nearly 2 inches falling. That rain was a record for the date, 1.94 inches. After peaking this morning, the temperature slowly fell through the rest of the day. 1978. We're now midway between the two big storms.
Right.
The big storm of January 20th and the big storm to come on February 6th and 7th, the blizzard of 78. This was the first of today. Today started. I guess we got pushed into the ice box beginning today. Today in 1978, the first of 12 days in a row in which the high temperature was 32 or colder, the longest such streak since during the 1970-2000 period, but it would be topped in the winter of 2001 when there was one of 13 days
Right.
of 32 or
And
below.
that first day just was right after the Cleveland blizzard, as I
Right,
recall,
right. I think we jumped.
which washed away all the big snows from January 19th, 20th.
Right, right.
Oh God. All right. So I'm tired. I had a long day, so time to call it a night. So
Scott Briller, by the way, sent a bunch of "This is your life" type um, questions, Joe, but they're questions that you know already, but questions that the chat board had to answer. Like, for example, what college did Joe Chiappi graduate from?
right,
What high
CCNY,
school did you go to?
Cardinal
You know all
Spellman.
of these things,
Yeah.
right? You know these already.
Yes, I do
So
because I live them. All right. Thank you again, everybody, for the super chat hits and for all the wonderful birthday wishes that you gave me. Joe and I love doing this show. I especially, since when I started it, it was just me by myself, and then when Joe came to work at FiOS, I dragged him on into the 21st century to do these YouTube live streams, and of course, once that all came to an end, we've been doing it. Uh, Pretty much 5 days a week ever since, or sometimes 6 days a week. And I just love it, and I'm having the time of my life. So
I've got to
Let's
say
go for
something.
another year here.
At least I got to tell you that I was at News 12 Westchester for 21 years. When you leave someplace for so long and you move on to somewhere else, it can be traumatic, and it was for me. It was emotionally traumatic. The fact that FiOS One was there and I managed to still land there and still have a job, I should have, people say, well, you should be happy. I mean, you're still gainfully employed, or whatever. But I was still emotionally a wreck until I started working with this guy. It was that, we knew each other for about 40 years, but it was the first time that we now were physically together.
Yep.
And we had tried getting together at News 12 Long Island, but they just didn't want to put us together. Maybe they knew something that we didn't know. But we were together, and as soon as I started working with this guy, immediately everything changed. Emotionally I felt a lot better. I was happy coming to work because I knew I was going to come, and there he was. And I remember it was like one of the first days that we were together, Joe. We ended up doing the Bugs Bunny, the dance routine from the old Bugs Bunny show.
Right.
Overture
Cut
on the
on the
lights.
lights.
This
This is it.
this is
The
it.
night of nights. No more
No
rehearsing and nursing
rehearsing
the
and
part.
nursing
We
part.
know every
We
part
know
by
every
heart. Overture.
overture.
Don the lights. This is it.
This is
The
it.
night of
We'll take
nights.
the
And
height.
oh, what
And
heights
what
we'll
heights will
hit.
hit
On with the
on
show.
with
This
the
is
show.
it.
This is it.
Yep.
I mean, we were dancing around. We were dancing around in the middle of the place where the weather center was, and where two of the control rooms were, and people were looking at us like we were nuts. But it was the first time in like weeks that I had finally let it all out. Like, ah,
Yep.
finally, I feel good again, and it's all because of Mr. Chiaffi. So I want to thank you very much for that, and I hope we go on for another year doing this craziness on weeknights.
Well, contracts have been renewed. We're not going to get thrown out of this. We're not going to get thrown out into the street like we were back. What is it now? A year and a half ago, 2 years ago, whatever. When was it?
November of 2019.
19. So yeah,
Yes.
so a year and
Has it
change.
been that long?
Yeah,
Wow.
time went. It went fast, and
It
gets
sure
goes
did.
faster and faster. All right,
It sure did.
let's say good night because I got to hit the hay. I'm exhausted. Have a
Good
good night.
night.
Good night, everybody. Thanks again, and we'll see you tomorrow at the regular time tomorrow, 7:30 Eastern time. Good night, everybody.
Good night.